Hello, I'm Dave Speakman. This week I'm just going to look at some music applications on both Android and iOS devices. I use Android phone and I use an Apple tablet. I'm not really bothered which one's which really. I find both of them to be great systems to use. Some people prefer one over the other. I'm not really bothered. All of the apps that I'm going to show you are available for both systems, apart from, I think there's one that isn't, and I'll tell you which one that is. It's a shame that it's not available on Android really, because I think there's more young people with Android devices than iPhones. The first app that I want to look at is an app called Drum Genius. This is a fantastic app. Essentially, it's just a load of drum loops. They've been programmed in using the software Easy Drummer, I think, something like that. One of the software sample packages. Absolutely phenomenal. So we can look at, say, a medium swing. So the grooves that have been played by some of the most famous drummers in the world. So there's like the groove to Freddie Freeloader here. But there's lots and lots and lots of grooves. Just for the medium swing, there's enough of them. And then you can see that there's all these different styles. If you go into like more of a funky thing, you know, there's some of the James Brown grooves, the phenomenal grooves, the funky drummer groove, probably the most sampled drum loop of all time. And it just gives you something to practice with, like a really cool thing to practice with. It's not all sort of jazz stuff, there's some pop and rock stuff as well here, like the groove to Let It Be. It's amazing actually how many of these grooves you recognise straight away, you know, like groove to Rosanna. So they're all pretty cool loops. And you can just put these on and practice things. So I practice my rhythm playing with it, or I practice like things that I would do just maybe with like an octave pedal playing the bass lines and then trying to play like just with a drummer, like a duo thing, which is something that I really enjoy practicing. It kind of makes my practice more fun, and if my practice is more fun, then I practice more, which is good really, isn't it? That brings me on to the next app really, which is a metronome app. Now my favourite metronome app is the app Pro Metronome. Pro Metronome has the ability to turn on and off all of the 4 beats. I mean, you can change the time signature to another thing, but I mean, like all music's in 4/4, isn't it really? Most music anyway. And I don't tend to use the metronome with an accent on a beat anyway. I tend to just use a static click. So irrespective of the time signature, I just have it on one click. What it does enable you to do though is to get down at some quite low tempos. So we could put it, say, at 60 beats a minute. And then I could turn off some of these beats. So now essentially the metronome's at 30 beats a minute, but I've got the sort of the feel of that into my ear as I'm practicing something, and then I could turn this last one off, and then maybe I've just got that maybe just on, say, beat 4 of the bar, and that means that I've really got to practice it, you know, to get that in, or I could maybe even slow it down even more and it might be on beat 2 of every other bar. If I can do that and I can lock in on that, then my time must be pretty good really to do that. So these are the sort of things that I practice timing wise. I practice that quite a lot. I quite enjoy doing it. When you lock in with it, it's really, really cool. It's a really cool experience to, you know, and you know that you're not speeding up, you're not slowing down. You can change the sound of the clicks as well. Not sure how useful that is, but some people might like to do that. But it also has these other really good features. So there's like a practice mode thing where it changes the tempo in increments of whatever you set it to really. So I remember an exercise that Mike Walker gave me to do years ago when I was learning guitar with him was we'd start at 50 beats a minute, and this was on an analog metronome, like one of these old school things, and you'd play the scale at first. It was playing crotchets at 50 beats a minute, and then the metronome would go up one click on the old school metronome until you got to 100, then you'd go back to 50 and you do quavers, up to 100, back to 50 and you do semi-quavers, and then you take that up with semi-quavers as far as you could, usually to around 120, 140, depending on how much I was practicing. And it was a really, really good exercise and really great for my time and just really good disciplined thing to do, kind of like army mode on the guitar. But yeah, I'd do that I think I did that for a few months, and it really honed my technique. So a metronome app's essential. There's a few other features of this metronome as well that I don't use. There's set lists and things. So I suppose if you're a drummer and you need to put the tempo of certain tunes in to, and you've got that in your ears, you can do that. You can just set a set list and you can name all of the tunes. These are just the ones that come with the metronome. And then there's a few other settings that, to be honest, I don't tend to use. There's this rhythm trainer thing, which is pretty cool. So that one, it will play the click for a bar and then mute for a bar. So it's a similar thing to what I was saying before. So that's a really useful thing to practice. It's quite cool. I might have a go with that later today, actually. There's also settings for subdivision. If you're struggling to get a shuffle feel or something like that, if you're a beginner or something, you might put the metronome into shuffle mode and now it will actually play you the shuffle pattern. So you can kind of get that into your ear. It's a fantastic metronome, this. I think it's the best one on the market. There's another metronome that I used for quite a while, which was called Metronome. That did similar things to the practice thing, so it would go up in increments, and that was a really useful thing as well. You could also set a time for how long you were going to practice something for. So if you're doing sort of scale drills, things like that, you can just do stuff like that with it. It's good. My next favourite app that I use an awful lot is an app called Goodreader. Now, Goodreader is just a way of organising PDFs onto your iPad. Now, I know a lot of people use Fourscore, and I use Fourscore as well. I've got Fourscore. Fourscore's great for certain things. What Goodreader's amazing for is that it syncs with either your Dropbox or your Google Drive or anything like that. So I can just go to Connect and I can press Sync, and it will sync all of the PDFs that I have in certain folders in my Dropbox. So for me, when I'm teaching guitar and things like that, when I'm in a school, it means that I can go onto my iPad and I can press sync, and I know that all the PDFs for my teaching materials are on my iPad and they're up to date. If I update a file on my computer, if I change something, probably because I made a spelling mistake, knowing me, it will update it when I resync it, and that's really useful. And again, like out gigging with bands, I have folders in here that the band leader actually puts those PDFs in that folder, and then before the gig all I have to do is press sync, and then I know when I get onto the gig I've got the latest pad for the gig. I don't need to worry about it. I'm not faffing around with anything. Notable mention with that is Fourscore, what's particularly good about Fourscore is that you can actually create set lists. So you can drag your PDF, so if you've got just the individual files of each tune, and then you can drag them into a set list and you can drag them around on the gig. So if somebody says, oh, let's do Never Too Much next or whatever, you can just drag that up and get on with it. I've not actually set it up on this iPad. This isn't my gigging iPad. I have another one that goes out in my guitar case with me. For gigs and teaching, because it's absolutely wrecked. So I bought myself a fancy one. The next app that I probably use more than anything else is a very simple one, and it's just the voice recorder that's built into the phone or the iPad or whatever. It's just the one that comes with it. And loads of people do this. I know my friend Brian, he does a podcast which you should definitely check out. It's called Soda Jerky on Songwriting. And he had Paul McCartney on his podcast a few weeks ago, and Paul McCartney got his phone out because he'd been writing a tune, and he'd recorded a little thing of him writing his tune on his phone just to remember. So I have loads and loads of tunes on here that I've written, so any tune that's on my album, there's probably a sketch of it, of the first thing that I was messing around with on my phone. I know my friend Ben Williams does this a lot. I think Ben's got like 300 tunes on his phone or something, because he writes so much music. If you're not listening to Ben's music, go and listen to it, it's really good. So just the voice recorder that comes with your phone, it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible thing to have, and it's a little bit like what we used to do when we were younger, which is I used to just use a tape machine and just press record on that. And for a while, as tapes went out, there wasn't really anything that replaced it, and thankfully phones have really come into their own now. So even though I've got a recording studio and spend half my time in the recording studio, as daft as it might sound, sometimes when I've got an idea for a tune, I just want to record it now and I want to know what it sounds like, and my phone's good enough just to get the idea down make a few little notes. I usually make the title the chords of the tune or whatever that I'm working on, just so that I can remember it. And speaking of things for tunes, one great resource on both iOS and Android devices is this app, iReal Pro. This is ridiculous. I mean, basically we've got the chord sequences for all the jazz standards, and you can download a lot of pop tunes as well. This has got me out of trouble on gigs before now. Someone wants to do a tune and I don't know it, and I can just look at the chords and kind of get them into my head before we play the tune. So it's been a really good resource for that. You know, someone says, do you know this? And it's like, you know, a quick look. Oh yeah, I know that one, yeah. You know. So, I mean, you know, it also backs up as it's a little bit ropey, but it works as a backing track. So, you know, for example, there's Someday My Prince Will Come. So you can put that on and press play, and it does a little backing track for it. It's not an amazing sounding backing track. It's a bit like Band in the Box was in the sort of late 90s. It's kind of at that sort of level. But if you're somewhere, you know, say if you're doing some peripatetic work and a student doesn't turn up, a student's off ill or self-isolating or something, and you're not able to teach them online at the time, then just putting this on and having a little bit of a practice with a bit of a backing is really useful. I enjoy doing that. It's great. I mean, the backing's fine. I know, again, you know, some great musicians that I know that use iReal all the time. You know, if it's a tune that you don't know that well, so you've got a jazz gig coming up and there's a list of tunes that someone gives you, maybe might be a tune on there that you don't know as well as others. You could just bang that on and have a little play through it. Is it better than an Aebersold? I don't know, maybe not, but I mean the Aebersolds have their limits as well, because they're very predictable. When you're practicing with the Aebersold thing, you know what's going to happen next after you've played the backing track once or twice. At least with this, it's kind of like an algorithm, and it's not necessarily playing them the same way every time. You can change the groove as well, so like you could put, I don't know, just like a standard like There Will Never Be Another You. So you could put that on, but then you can actually change the groove. So I don't know why you'd want to play it in non-swing, but let's say that you wanted to play it as a bossa, because you're a bit of a sicko or something. And there you go. You can play There Will Never Be Another You as a bossa. Yeah. It's a great app. I'd definitely get that one. And again, you can actually put your own chord sequences into this. So if you're working with somebody and you're not that good at remembering chord sequences, you can put them into this. It's probably better on an iPad than it is an iPhone, or a phone or whatever, but useful to have on your phone because you've always got your phone with you. The next app is particularly good for students of music. I would say students of all levels, from sort of primary school through to degree level, even beyond. To be fair, anyone can use this app. The downside to it is that it is iOS only, and it's actually specifically iPad only. And this is an app called Earmaster Pro. There's a version of this for the PC and the Mac. It used to be like 50 or 60 quid or something like that. I think, I can't remember, it's years ago that I bought it. I think it's about 8 quid on an iPad. It's definitely worth it. And you could use it to sharpen up your ears, no matter who you are. I think there's subscription things, so I think you get the beginner course free with it, and then you can buy, I mean, I bought all of it a long time ago. But, you know, essentially, it's like a little game for ear training. And it's really, really, really good. So there's stuff identifying pitches, there's stuff identifying different things. So you can go, you know, melodic dictation. And then you have to transcribe it on there, essentially, yeah? So you can do it on there. One of the things that's most useful in this app that I've used a lot when I was younger was interval identification. And I used to do this on the computer back when I was at university, which was 20 years ago. And there was things like interval identification. So it'll play the interval and you'll listen, and then it's kind of multiple choice, you know, and it gets more complicated, and eventually it gets so that you can definitely hear intervals up to 2 octaves really, really easily. There's other things with chord identification, chord inversion identification. It's great, fantastic app. On the iPad, even better now as well, because you can actually sing the answers into it and it identifies them. You know, these things, I mean, technology's come along so well for things like this. So if you're a student of music at any level, which, let's face it, we all are, you would get it. I would still use, I should. I'm going to use it more. You know, it's really, really, really good. It goes to things that are fairly advanced as well. So even people whose ears are really, really sharp, I think that there's things that you could learn from this. It's a great app. The next apps is a series of apps really, and they are applications for controlling pieces of hardware or software that you might already own. So there's great apps like the Avid Control app, and this is used for controlling Pro Tools. Pro Tools isn't open at the moment, so it won't do anything. The Logic Control app's really, really good. You get applications for controlling mixing desks like the X32 or the Midas mixing desks, the Allen & Heath mixing desks. And then on my phone, I have all of the ones for all of the mixing desks that I'm likely to encounter in my gigging life. For my IEM mixes, any gig that I get on, if I've got my own IEM mix, I can be told which bus I'm on and I can control my own mix from my phone, which makes it so much better because I've got control of my mix. It means that the monitor engineer can deal with the singer and I'm in control of what I'm doing, which is fantastic. Also have the control app for a couple of other pieces of hardware that I've got, like the Eventide H9, they have a thing. Obviously there's no device found at the moment because I've not got one. What other devices have I got apps for? And I have ones that control my cameras and things like that. So all of these are really useful. If you don't have an iPad, I would suggest as a musician, it's one of the best things that you can get. You don't have to get the fanciest one. I think the new iPad Air that's just come out looks amazing. It's phenomenal, so get that. Last but not least is just a simple tuning app. Now, if you're a guitarist, there's no shame in using a guitar tuner. I mean, I can tune with my ears, but I would also, if I was ever going to record anything, I'm always going to check with a tuner before I do it, just to be sure. I remember watching a Joe Pass video years ago where he said that he usually gave his guitar to someone else to tune or used a tuner. He doesn't do it by ear himself. None of the pros tune their own guitars either. There was a story where Chris Martin, the singer in Coldplay, was given a guitar and it was out of tune and he tried to tune it. He actually couldn't tune it because he'd not actually tuned his own guitar in like 20 years or something because he'd just been on tour constantly. There's no shame in using a tuner. I mean, it's a good skill to develop, learning to tune a guitar by ear, obviously, but use a tuner as well. The tuner that I use it's just called Guitar Tuner and it's spelled like tuna fish, T-U-N-A. It's free, that's why I use it. I don't know, there's a TC Electronic app that's quite good. I don't know, maybe it's better. Who knows, I've not got it. It's never going to be as good on your phone as a dedicated tuner. I mean, like the TC Electronic little clip-on tuners, the Polytune is absolutely phenomenal. It's so good. But again, it's having something with you, and you always have your phone with you, unless you're really weird, you always have your phone with you. So you've just got a tuner in your pocket, you've got all your tunes in your pocket, you've got chord charts for loads and loads of other stuff, you've got your ability to control your IEM mixes, you've got ear training software, you've got everything really, all in your phone, in your pocket. Or if you need it slightly bigger, on an iPad. So I would say as a musician, having a decent phone and a decent iPad, pretty essential things to have these days. Yeah, great. What apps do you use though? I mean, there are other apps. I mean, obviously GarageBand, apps like that get notable mentions, things that you can be creative on, or drum machine type stuff. They're really cool. But do leave me comments below about the apps that you use. I'm really, really keen to see some new apps. I know there's another like Loop Station app that someone was telling me about the other day called Loopy. Maybe check that one out. That sounds really fun. Yeah, just tell me what apps you're using. I'm really keen to try some more out. If I get enough of you, it'd be great to get some people on to explain what apps they're doing. If anyone wants to collaborate on a video, that'd be awesome. Lots more content coming up soon. I've been working at Edge Studios in Macclesfield quite a lot, doing some live streaming with Sennheiser, so some quite exciting things going on there. I'm going to do a behind the scenes video of how we approach those live streams there, because it's quite interesting. Going to be continuing with the beginner guitar course. Sorry I've not put any content for that out recently. If you're waiting for it, I've just not had the time, unfortunately. With these Sennheiser jobs have been mental. It's been quite busy, and I'm still doing my guitar teaching and running this studio at the same time, so I've just not had time to do it. But I am going to continue with the beginner guitar course. It will be continuing. In the meantime, please do go back and watch some earlier videos and make sure that you really know what's going on with them all. Make sure that you understand it all properly. If there's anything that you want me to do content on about the studio, about video stuff, guitar, anything like that, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for your support and thanks for watching. Bye bye.